Hi, good morning. My name's Louise. I am the editor of Drone Professional 1, which is a best-selling book on Amazon, which came out at the beginning of the year. And it contains current best thinking on drone technology, best practice, business success, tips and guidance. And it was written by 16 authors or 16 experts in the drone industry from around the world. I've got one of those authors with me today from the UK. Anne-Lise. And yeah, welcome, Anne-Lise.
Good morning, Louise.
Good morning. I see you have a good copy of the book there.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. All's good. Thanks very much. Yeah, I wanted to chat to you about Drone Professional 1, but in particular, what do you do? Tell us what you do. What's your role in the industry?
Well, I have a couple of hats actually in the industry. One is that I founded a consulting company called the Drone Office, and essentially advising companies and communities on how to best use drones, with a particular focus on creating value using drones. And then I have a second hat, which is director of ARPAS-UK. ARPAS is the non-for-profit UK Drone Association, so a professional body representing the industry.
Okay, I mean, you've actually presented at parliamentary hearings, haven't you, in that role?
Yes, so as a director of ARPAS-UK, I'm fundamentally the treasurer, looking for finance, but we also contribute in different ways. And certainly on my side, I've done quite a bit of talks and supports to help educate, let's say, the decision makers, essentially but also government and other authorities, so that they understand both the good things and the bad things about drone and drone use. And that was essentially after what I would refer to as the Gatwick incident. And we were extremely active in terms of, helping balancing the approach to drones with all our decision makers. And for me, it was very challenging because, it's not every day that you discuss with high profile decision makers, but I'm very happy that I did do it because we did well in terms of having a balanced approach thereafter and return to normal, a few months after the Gatwick incident.
Sure, it must. Yeah, I can imagine that must be quite an interesting scenario to be sitting there dealing with these high-profile, top of the food chain sort of stakeholders. It must have been really interesting, actually. I mean, was it really quite enlightening in terms of what they did and didn't know?
Two things. I think they knew very little initially. Okay. And so the need to educate was absolutely there. And honestly, I mean, it's still a niche market. So for me, it's no surprise that they would know little. There are more important subjects, for a member of parliament, whether it's education, health, etc. And the second point is that they were very eager to learn. I mean, it's like on my side, what I did is just literally the drone for dummies, the ABC of drones, and dumping all fundamental core foundation knowledge so that they would understand how it works and where we are, what is the state of the art. And on the other side, I had basically receiving minds, just absorbing knowledge so that they would be in a position to take the relevant decisions. So I found it interesting. I mean, very positively interesting.
Yes. Okay. Well, I kind of envy you in some ways. It'd be nice to be able to help do something like that. Sort of educate, as you say, and play a role in how decisions can be made to enable the industry to grow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Okay. So yeah, you were one of the authors
yes.
in Drone Professional 1, which was great.
Yeah.
your particular chapter was drones in medical logistics. What were some of the key points that you made in that chapter?
Yes, I've been working for, I don't know, a year or so, even more, on medical logistics. The idea behind it is that drones for now are essentially an eye in the sky, and their value is in the data or images that they capture. And so really it's about digital transformation and the data captured. But the next step with regards to drone is like a robotics in a way. The next step will be drones taking actions, performing tasks, or drones carrying goods, so transportation. And in that regard, so of course BVLOS, what we call BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, which is essentially a drone flying beyond the visual line of sight of the pilot, will be an essential parameter. And but what for? Delivering pizza? Not really. I don't think this is creating a lot of value in a way for society. So my dad is a doctor, and the idea is that really an important way to contribute in every respect to society by going to the next step in terms of technology for drones would be to develop medical applications. And the idea was that it was actually very relevant because you can have high value or life-saving medical products and healthcare products that need to reach difficult to reach people and areas. So that was the rationale behind looking at medical logistics. And in doing so, I worked with pathology labs and other healthcare providers in order to understand exactly what was the need. So, I would say two key lessons. One is that there is a need, and unfortunately, the current times accelerate the need in a way. It shows that, yes, so if we had drones today carrying medical products, both for the COVID-19 crisis and for people who are sick of something else, we would be better off. So clearly there is a number of use cases that are extremely relevant for the practitioners, but also for the patients in a way. So that's a positive. And the other side of the coin is that we still have challenges. One challenge is regulation, but I would say for me, it's not the top number one challenge. The top number one challenge is the technologies. If the technologies were available, the regulators would happily regulate that everything is possible. So I think there is a roadmap to new technologies that would enable safe and secure BVLOS transport and logistics drone, and that is great. But at the same time, it still has to happen in a way. And maybe one of the sadly positive outcome of the crisis will be that there will be more effort and investment put in terms of developing those novel technologies.
Yeah, no, that's also sort of my next sort of question for you was about that. But it was interesting, what you were saying back there about the sort of delivery. Is that, initially I know Amazon put out that challenge that they were going to be delivering parcels by whatever particular time it was. Some people said it was a stunt. It doesn't matter, but it is just really interesting that the biggest delivery companies are in fact for medical logistics. It's not for pizzas or ice cream. I know that does happen somewhere, but it's just really interesting. And it also seems like public acceptance is more tolerant for a drone for good. Because I think it was in Australia, there was going to be some deliveries and it got shut down because everybody was fed up with the noise. They weren't tolerating it because it wasn't seen as really real value. So, but it was also interesting you say though that you don't think that the regulations per se are a top issue. It's rather the technology, the aircraft, or an element of it you feel, because that's unusual because most people say it's always regulations.
I know, But I think, to be fair, it's a mix of both. That is, you know, the regulator, their job is to ensure that operations and the operations in the sky are safe and secure. So if they don't have the elements to prove or to have the confidence that it is safe and secure, then obviously they cannot move forward. So I think it's a mix, it goes hand in hand. When the technologies are developed, then the regulation will also be put in place. Now, of course, what is challenging is, you know, the technology providers are telling the regulators, well, tell me what you want and we will develop it. But, you know, it's not obvious for anybody to know precisely what it takes. So I think it is a question of going hand in hand to understand what it will take to develop those safe and secure operations.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, as well, because, you know, like you were saying just now, you know, you were educating the authorities. And so how can a manufacturer say, well, what do you want? I mean, if they don't know what they want, they can't ask for what they want as well, perhaps. So, yeah, it's a bit of a round, going around in circles. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I mean, you know, with the current crisis, what sort of role, I mean, in an ideal world, what sort of role would you envisage for the drone from a medical logistical perspective?
Well, I think there are drones for medical logistics, and then there is the question of drones in general. For medical logistics, my assessment is that there are a number of very relevant use cases in, I would say, in cities or in developed areas for emergency 24/7 off the chart logistics. What I mean by that is that under normal circumstances, there are already logistics routine in place that serves a purpose, and they're in place and everything goes well. The challenge is more when you have requirements outside of those routine logistics, and this can be for either for emergencies, but also it can be for very specific cures, or it can be for individual you know, patient-specific medicines. And then there is another chapter altogether, which is hard to reach areas. And here, you know, I'm a strong advocate of the fact that remote areas are not just in Africa, like you know, where you are, Louise. In Europe too, rural Europe, you know, has challenges accessing proper medical care. I mean, we call it medical deserts, and it's true, it's happening. So on my side, I consider that there is a lot of potential in terms of improving access to care in what I call rural Europe. And the challenges are the same in a way as in Africa or in other places where you have a lot of empty land in a way. And then when we, you know, try to think of what will happen after the crisis and the role of drones, I think sadly enough, the crisis will highlight that, how shall I say, that, you know, there are a number of instances where drones are extremely beneficial, and in a way it will support social acceptance of certain use cases of drones, because it's obvious that, you know, it helps the social distancing. It helps keeping activity going even under some form of a relaxed confinement, because, you know, typically drone operations do not require a lot of contact with people. Therefore, it can return to normal and support the activity. But at the same time, you know, I think a lot of people will suffer from economic crisis. There will be a lot of unemployment, presumably, once we get all out of confinement. And so I think it will be very important that there is also a case for cost efficiency. That is, it's not good enough to be supporting social distancing, supporting what I call, you know, the 3Ds, removing people, your employees, from dull, dangerous and dirty missions, but it will also have to prove cost efficiency. because in days when money will be tight, I think you know, drone operations will also have to prove that they are highly cost efficient.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I've said it to some of the other authors. What worries me a little bit is that there has been use of drones for monitoring social distancing. And that kind of adds the spying element to it, which concerns me a bit, that maybe that just solidifies drones in the public mind as machines for spying. And I'm curious how it will balance out. As you say, there are the good sides to this. But I'd be curious to see how the perception and the value of the drones on the other side of this crisis sort of balances out in that regard. But,
it's true that in the UK we had a chat with police forces, and actually they share that concern that using drones to spot you know, people who are not who were having a walk, etc. There was some footage actually in, I think it was in the Lake District, of people having a walk, and frankly there was nobody around. So I think on my side, I consider that we need to come out of confinement in a, you know, mentally healthy, and having a walk in the middle of nowhere for me is not such a bad thing. Yes, they could have an accident in their car on the way and then, you know, create some havoc, or well, I think it is a bit far-fetched. So there is, in fact, yes, this concern that drones would have a negative image if they are just used for surveillance. But I think a lot of people actually see the positive side of it.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I'm pleased to hear that.
Yeah, yes, definitely. But essentially, it's there is no need to go and expose your employees and staff, etc., to dangerous situations, including exposure to the virus, if you can find an alternative solution, which is a drone. And and I think that public perception will be improved. That would be my my take after the crisis.
Okay. Do you think this might further autonomous use more, or do you think that that's still a bit of a way off acceptance from authorities and what have you? I'm just curious, you know, again, for the social distancing or, you know, gathering data remotely and doing things with it. Do you think this might forward the case for a more autonomous use?
Well, I hope so. I mean, for sure, you know, autonomy goes with BV loss in a way, because as long as you are within visual line of sight, well, I mean, you can still pilot it. I mean, well, to a certain extent, because the reality is that when you do, when you want to do data exploitation, then you realize that, you know, the perfect flight plan when it's manual doesn't exist. I mean, the the software does it so much better than you. So if you want to have you know, a proper reconstruction of your area, then you do need to use the mission planning software. It's much better than you. But I do hope that going forward, it will support autonomy and the automation, because that would even expand the case for social distancing. If you are not automated, then it means that you have a team on the ground, literally a crew, you know, observer, pilot, etc., etc. So clearly, if you are properly automated, then you are even better improving, you're even more within line of social distancing. Yes,
there's going to be some interesting questions, I think, and yeah, that comes out of this at the end. Certainly from a drone industry perspective, there's plenty of other points of discussion that are going to follow, of course. But yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, how can people get hold of you if they want to talk to you more for the ARPAS hat or drone office hat? How can they get hold of you?
The easiest actually is on LinkedIn. Okay. Anne-Lise Scaillierez. You can find my full details in the book. Okay. Otherwise, through the drone office, you can you know, contact us via the drone office website. or the ARPAS-UK website. You know, you can definitely contact us via the contact forms, and both organizations tend to have a you know, response turnover time of less than 24 hours.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'll put those links in the message underneath the LinkedIn post, but that's great, thank you. Well, thanks very much for your time today, and again, it was I really enjoyed your chapter and what you had to say in there, and it was great chatting to you today. So yeah, I'd just like to say to everybody else, thank you very much for watching. There will be a couple more videos to come. Drone Professional 1 is available on Amazon and LinkedIn. There we go, Anne-Lise is holding up a copy there. And in paperback format. It is a really interesting book if you're interested in the industry, if you want to get into the industry, if you're not quite sure, you've got your doubts. There are some really interesting topics covered in here, including the medical use of drones in medical applications, should I say. So thanks again for watching, and as always, please keep well and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.